Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Fumbling Gurus, a podcast that covers the NFL. And now your hosts, Gannon and Jonathan, because, well, unfortunately, Tom is unable to make it this week.
He's probably celebrating his win.
Something like that. Week 1 is done. It's official, over, goodbye, see you later. And I have very important questions to ask you, Gannon, and there is no other question to ask than this. How was your vacation?
It's great. Yeah, my beard didn't want to stay on my face. It just wanted to leave, so I just let it breathe.
Now,
No, it was warm. I have never been on that coastline before, so I got a little taste of what Florida is actually like, and I will stay in Oregon. Thank you.
I don't understand what you're talking about. We did warn you about sunscreen. Apply more sunscreen, and if you think you've applied enough, or maybe too much, apply a little bit more. How burnt did you get?
I got blistered, and it was awful, but the rest of the vacation was excellent.
Got a little sun poisoning. I love it. That is what the opposing teams face when they come to Florida and play the Bucks or play the Dolphins in the home stadium. It's a beautiful thing. See what I did there? Did you like that? Took your vacation and went right to football.
Did like that.
It was an absolute chaotic week 1 in the NFL. Upsets everywhere. But I gotta talk to you real quick, man. Now I understand that you were on vacation, you were traveling back, so you may not have caught every game. What was going on with special teams this week?
Dude, I don't know. Field goals that should have been weren't gotten, like overtime.
Attempting field goals that never should have been attempted. Kickers being
yes.
cut on week 1. Like,
Yes.
even the Steelers game. I don't know if you actually got to see what happened on there, but here you had the Bengals getting ready to win the game, and they get their extra point blocked. And then they miss a field goal, like a 30-something yard field goal, wide left. Like, what? I don't know what that feels like. My kicker was perfect, but you know, I was unbelievable. Special teams were certainly anything but special last week. It was absolutely, completely chaotic.
I mean, as a kicker, you have one job.
I mean, it does bring the old. There's this great video done by. I'm forgetting her name right now. But anyway, she was on ESPN at the time, and she had people come in and try field goals who were like talking trash on Twitter, and they couldn't kick field goals. It's pretty remarkable that, yeah, kicking is difficult, but here's the thing. In the Kansas City game, we had a kicker go down with an injury in the first quarter, I believe it was. So Eric Reed, their safety, became their kicker. He was great on kickoffs. He sent it in the back of the end zone, and he was perfect in the field goals. I wish I had that guy on IDP. Do you know what IDP stands for? Individual Defensive Player. It's some leagues you draft individual defensive players, and so he would have gotten you some extra points for the field goal attempts.
There you go.
Just hit a safety kicking field goals, but the Colts kicker couldn't make it.
Didn't the Browns tweet out that's why you draft a kicker?
It might. I don't know if that's true. I will tell you this: the Browns got away with something because Mr. Brissett, he goes under center and he snaps the ball and he fakes the spike and then he spikes it. That's actually against the rule. You're not allowed to do that. That's intentional grounding.
They get away with it?
They got away with it. They hit a 59-yard field goal to win the game. If that doesn't happen, then they have to attempt a 64-yard field goal because at least a 5-yard penalty. And here's my big question. One is, do they attempt a 64-yard field goal? But more importantly than that, if they miss it, my buddy who asked me for advice, he's in a survival league, he chose the Panthers, and of course the Panthers lose. And the team that he was originally going to pick was the Bills, and, well, they kind of won. So we're going to start with that. That was the big game that started the season off. and you had the Bills versus the Rams, Super Bowl winner versus a Super Bowl contender, and it was a slugfest. Not really. It was some turnovers and some bad plays done by the Bills, and it was a 10-10 game at half. Gannon, what happened?
Regression happened. I watched a little bit of that game because it was when I was on vacation. What I did catch, I feel like the Bills just rolled right over them. Like they just couldn't get anything going. I don't know what's going on with that offense, but yeah, I don't know. But I did. So step back a little bit. East Coast football times suck. I fell asleep. Funny story. I fell asleep during the game, and I have Cooper Kupp in my fantasy league, and I wake up to, and I don't remember this at all, but I wake up to Cooper Kupp just scored a touchdown, and I was like, apparently I woke up dead sleep. It's like, yeah, Cooper Kupp,
And then went back to bed?
and went back to bed. But I checked the score. I do remember checking the score, and it was absurd.
Josh Allen looks like an MVP candidate. That Bills defense is legit. The Rams looked old. They looked slow. I don't know what happened to Cam Akers. Jalen Ramsey got cooked. While you were gone, we replaced you with a Dallas Cowboys fan. He was actually a Kansas City fan, but number 2 is Dallas. And me and him both picked the Rams. We thought home field advantage, Super Bowl win, coming out, getting the victory. And we were both way off. But I want to give credit to Tom. He said, you know what? They're going to win. I trust the Bills, and he was dead on. The Bills, they're good. They're real good. They're really, really good. And they're only going to get better. But their running backs are the weakness. But Singletary kind of looked the part last week.
I mean, you look at that first game, I don't think it doesn't look like they showed a real big weakness.
They really didn't.
Against defending Super Bowl champions. I mean the Rams. I don't know.
I mean the Rams.
Everybody was saying this is a Super Bowl, game. Like this should be the Super Bowl game.
One thing that was a little concerning, and I say this just as a bit of a Bills hater. I will admit that. Josh Allen took some big unnecessary hits. Now he's a big boy, he's strong, and that's what he does. But you wonder, year after year, game after game, if he's dropping his shoulder to when the game's already over, if that's not going to get himself dinged up and hurt. But they look good. I mean, Allen 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. Oh, and he had 56 yards on the ground and another touchdown. Like, that's pretty good. Stephon Diggs was uncoverable. The kid, UCF kid, Davis, I mean, a monster. And their offense is special. Just the running game is a little weak. And on the Rams side, old, slow. But it's week 1.
Yeah.
It's week 1. And there were a lot of upsets like that. I mean, I don't want to go... We've saw the games. You guys have seen the scores. We don't need to go into it all, but I just want to give some quick numbers. I mean, we're talking about, oh man, the Rams stunk it up. Well, the Cardinals got crushed 21-44. The Vikings, I mean, it was 23-7 on the Packers, but it wasn't close 23-7. The Bears beat the 49ers. I mean, even the Lions made the Eagles start to get a little nervous. We're going to get into that later. And the Texans, tying the Colts. And, like you just see this trend. Broncos losing to Seattle. Is week 1... Do you really learn much from week 1? I really feel like week 2 and week 3, you start to figure out who they are, who these teams are.
Would agree that you kind of figure out, going farther into the season, but it's kind of like a staple of where that team's weaknesses lie, for some of these teams. I mean, not every team, obviously, because the Bears game versus the 49ers, just dumping rain. Like, Is that going to be every game? I don't know. I think that give them a dry game. I don't think the Bears would have won that.
I tend to agree,
Blind luck.
but like Trey Lance came out and he looked like a rookie. I'm sorry, he looked like a first game starter. He had some errant throws. He made some mistakes. But can you chalk that up to first game in a monsoon?
Yeah.
I tend to agree.
I, I mean, I don't know. That's where week 2 comes along, versus Seattle. Is Seattle going to, bounce, well, not bounce back because they beat the team, but you know what I mean. Are they going to be the team? You know,
As I saw a lot on Twitter, Aaron Rodgers week 1 last year was abysmal. He played horrible. If you remember, there was a lot of people wondering, did all that off-season drama drown the Packers? The dude won the MVP. So I tend to say, for the teams that won, congratulations, but don't get too excited. And the teams that lost, don't hit the panic button yet. If you're the Jets, hit the panic button. You're in trouble. But I want to talk about another team, something I was very confident on, and that is the Panthers and Browns game real quick. He had the homecoming of Baker Mayfield, getting to stick it to his old team. That didn't happen. Were you able to watch any of that game?
I did not watch very much of that game, but brisket. Like, we were dogging on that quarterback.
To be fair, Brisket had 147 yards passing. Nick Chubb had 141 yards rushing.
Fair.
How often does the running back have almost as many yards as your quarterback?
I don't know. Maybe you tell me. Is it just because they couldn't stop the run game of Chubb? Like,
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
Panthers defense really struggled. I didn't catch a lot of the game. I kind of just read some cliff notes basically, and I watched the tail end. The Browns could just run the ball at will, and the Panthers had no answer. And to be fair with Mayfield, he did heat up. He actually took the Panthers, and got the lead with like a minute something left, I want to say. But then the Browns were able to go down the field. The intentional grounding, not intentional grounding call happens. The rookie kicker hits a 59-yarder, and the Browns end up, getting the win. So, I don't know.
That's where the later weeks have to come in.
But still, a huge letdown for Mayfield. You think that guy wanted to win that game more than anything?
I know we'll get into it later, but I bet you Russell Wilson was thinking the same thing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you this question. We're going to kind of start to move along from last week into this week. Biggest disappointment as a team this week. Who is your biggest disappointment?
Man.
Well, you kind of think about it. I'll kind of answer my biggest disappointment was the Colts. I know that they got a new quarterback, but they have Jonathan Taylor. They have Michael Pittman. This is a team that is supposed to, have a really good defense, playing one of the worst teams in the league in the Texans, and they tied. That's just, you can't have that happen. They needed that win, and while there was a lot of major letdowns, I felt that one. I mean, the Colts, we talked about the AFC South not being good. Currently in the AFC South, the Colts are the division leaders at 0-1 or 0-1, tied with the Texans, who are 0-1, because the other two teams lost. So I'm gonna ask you again, biggest disappointment?
Probably the Titans losing to the Giants. Giants are not a good team. I do not expect that much of the Giants this year, and to come off a week 1 loss to them in the way that they did, I don't know. That was disappointing to me, but bravo Giants, getting your first win.
I can understand that. Biggest disappointment.
Disappointment?
Yeah, like our biggest surprise maybe. I mean, for me, biggest disappointment was seeing the Broncos offense look completely overmatched, overwhelmed. They look sloppy. Just an abysmal showing, and makes me question: is Russell Wilson the player that I thought he was?
I would say Green Bay, honestly, because like you're really thinking about it, like how much did Devontae Adams actually help that offense? Now that you're looking at it and you have a bunch of newer guys, it feels like Aaron Rodgers really was frustrated on some of those plays because his guys just couldn't catch those balls.
And actually, what I meant to ask, and I kind of messed this up a little bit in my head, was biggest surprise. And I actually want to talk about Saquon Barkley. That dude looked legit. He looked like he was a rookie again. Absolute monster, and willed those Giants to a win. But we'll kind of wrap it up with this in terms of what I kind of want to discuss besides the injury portion, which is this: rookie head coaches on Sunday, undefeated. That's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
Heck yeah.
The and we're gonna. I guess we need to talk about it though. We have to dive into it, and that is that Denver game. We have to. There's a lot to dissect to just get into with this game. First off, how bad the Denver offense started off, how the O line kind of looked just. Russell Wilson just looked like he struggled. The the goal line plays from shotgun, and the two fumbles on back-to-back possessions. Is this, every time you get a new coach, everyone gets excited. And I know week one is hard to tell, but is Hackett, is he over his head?
Listen, the Seahawks soared over those Broncos, and I don't know, man. Like, some of the mistakes that the Broncos are making in the fourth were questionable. Like, you trust your kicker over your veteran quarterback that you just gave the bank to be your veteran quarterback, and you don't trust him getting that fourth down, and also horrible clock management. You could have possibly won that game.
I would argue should have won that game.
Should have won that game. Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. Do you chalk it up? Nerves? Like, you're in Seattle. Like, Seattle's surprising you by playing decently. Like, if you asked anybody, did you think Seattle had a chance against the Broncos? Probably not.
There's a division in that not in the Seattle locker room. They're used to. I mean, when Russell Wilson was there, and I always thought that it was kind of overblown. I think some of those defensive players, they really did not like Russell. I think they wanted a shot at him. I think it showed. That defense played hard. Now, we just talked about week one. Don't freak out. Aaron Rodgers, bad week one, ended up winning the MVP. Does this Denver team kind of feel like the off-season hero that's never going to get going?
It kind of does. I need a couple weeks to just feel them out, but this was not a good week for the Broncos, and you could kind of see how their road's going with that game against the Seattle Seahawks.
A 65-yard field goal, a 64-yard field goal. It would have been the third longest field goal in NFL history. Who do they think they have as a kicker? Justin Tucker?
And also, did they have 2 or 3 timeouts?
All 3 timeouts with 1:11 left.
Why? What's going on there?
These are all great questions that Hackett has been asked, and his response was, and then the analytics part. I love the people who say, oh, well, it was a coin flip. It wasn't a coin flip. It was a coin flip when the timer ran down. But the timer didn't need to run down. There was a minute something left. You call time. Either you run a play, so you save all 3 timeouts. If it fails, you still have a chance. Or you call timeout and you make up your best play and you trust your quarterback you gave $200 million to make 5 yards in that time. That's what you paid him for.
Yeah.
But,
exactly. That's gonna haunt him.
Absolutely. And if he doesn't turn his career around, people will point to this. I mean, some people are saying he should be on the hot seat. I saw one joke that said, I've never seen a head coach fired after one game, but if they fired him, I'd understand it. They're not wrong.
They're not wrong. No.
Well, there were a lot of injuries, and just a lot of injuries this week. I'm going to list you just a handful of the ones that were a little more serious. And first off, we talk about Bucker, Kansas City's kicker. He's out for extended time. That's a big loss. He's a very good kicker, but not near as big as some of these other ones. We talked about Denver. Justin Simmons is on IR. Dak Prescott gets hurt and is missing at minimum 4 weeks. TJ Watt tears a pec. He's out anywhere from, I've seen 4 to 8 weeks with his injury. Keenan Allen, fortunately, is only out 1 week. For those who picked up Joshua Palmer in fantasy football, congratulations. Maybe a good option. And then I read the Bucs injury report, and I don't know if they have any receivers left.
No.
I mean, Mike Evans, he'll play. Julio Jones, I think, was more of a rest day, but he is nicked up. Godwin hurt his hamstring again. Gage is still dealing with his hamstring. Like, the Bucs at left tackle's now hurt. They went a year ago, had all the health in the world. Now they're down their left tackle, left guard, backup left guard, center, and right guard. And the right tackle's dealing with an ab injury. It's a lot of turnover from 1 year, isn't it?
Yikes. Dude.
But that's all right. They've got a very mobile, young quarterback behind that line, right?
Yeah, well, it's basically going to be rookies down there somewhere.
Yeah. So,
Oy.
biggest injury, though, Dak Prescott. You're an Eagles fan. You hate Dallas. Prescott goes down. Congratulations, Eagles. You wrapped up the division early.
I think that it was already a wrap, but it just kind of solidifies it now.
I kind of agree. I think that's a sinking ship. There's been some talk about should Dallas go and trade for a quarterback. I was talking to someone about this, and I listed 3 quarterbacks that kind of make some sense to them if they're willing to make that trade. Tell me what your thoughts are if I'm missing somebody. Obviously, the biggest one, Jimmy Garoppolo. But then the 2 that I kind of thought, how about Teddy Bridgewater from Miami or Gardner Minshew of the Eagles?
See, I heard those rumors. You really think that your division rival's going to give up Minshew or anything less than the bag, right? I don't know. I mean, I would say Minshew is a solid backup quarterback.
I agree.
I don't know if he is starting worthy, and I don't see how him on the Cowboys would. I don't think he would fare very well, but I could be wrong. I mean, I think that Teddy Bridgewater is a good option. I really don't know of anybody else that they could possibly pick up.
Yeah,
and didn't they cut their backup QB?
I mean, at one point they had Andy Dalton. I don't know if that was a couple years ago. Cooper Rush, I think,
okay.
is his backup, or at least is someone they can elevate to practice from that practice squad. But he'll probably be their starter. I don't know if they're trying to save this season at all. I think they need to go make a move. But we'll see. So, but
I've been surprised by backups before. I mean, we just saw Seattle's backup do pretty well, and Marcus Mariota didn't do that bad either. So, I mean,
Yeah, we didn't talk about how Jameis Winston came from behind to beat Atlanta. It was a nifty little game.
that too.
Feels weird, Mariota and Atlanta, but there we are. G-Man, we talked a lot about opposing teams, but there's three teams that we need to go into. We talked about Dallas, who they played the Bucks, and their offense was atrocious. Dallas's could not get anything going, but the Bucks defense, man, they played lights out. They put pressure on Prescott. They kept the receivers blanketed. The running backs couldn't get going, and they held Dallas to the only team without scoring a touchdown this week. Impressive victory, or were all those field goals and no touchdowns worrisome if for the Bucks?
I will tell you this, okay? Cowboys had 10 penalties in that game. What did I tell you before the season even started? Penalties. Like, I don't know the number that I threw out with preseason, but I was like, hey, is this a sign of things to come? Penalties add up, and that didn't help them either.
Bad coach teams have a lot of penalties, and I have not made my opinion. I've made my opinion pretty clear that I think Dallas's head coach was a bad hire.
Yeah,
and
I would say chopping block.
He's got
last year.
I agree. I think he's done after this year, but we'll see how it all plays out. But again, going to the Bucks, and I'm asking you on the Bucks side because Dallas, I think, is done.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Prescott injury, if he misses significant time, the Bucks kicked a lot of field goals. They did not score a touchdown, or they scored one touchdown late. Are you nervous at all? I guess they had scored a touchdown late. Are you nervous at all about their lack of offense and only scoring 19 points against Dallas?
Listen, I don't know, because, like, is the Cowboys defense that good in the red zone? I mean, it seemed like it. I mean, if you could keep Brady away from it. Brady's a great quarterback, and I didn't see any reason why he couldn't run it in there, but
I did misspeak. He threw a touchdown pass to Mike Evans.
Okay, yeah, which doesn't surprise me, Mike Evans. But still, I mean, you should have blew him out. I mean, you're the Buccaneers.
And
you're a playoff team every year,
and when their offense is that lackluster, you feel like you're getting good field position. You should be able to move the ball and score, but they didn't. And I wonder if that was a little bit to do lack of preseason play, but also if the receiving core is banged up. Julio Jones looked all right. He had some speed to him, but he's still nicked up. So
yeah,
I guess we'll see. I think you're right. I think this is a bit of a performance from the Bucks where you're like, but you still won, and you did beat them convincingly. Who didn't beat their team convincingly are the Eagles. What happened? Go.
Okay, so Jonathan Gannon needs to open his playbook and figure out where the hell he's getting these plays.
I want to be real clear real quick. Jonathan Gannon is not me and Gannon combined. Like we're not playing Madden, and that's what he's referring to. I just want to make that clear to all the fellow listeners out there.
Yeah, this is true, because we as a unit could probably do better running the Eagles defense than Jonathan Gannon can. I heard at a press conference he was talking about Howie Roseman and him possibly helping with the playbook and like calling plays, which is not good when your GM is helping you call plays.
Is that a real thing? Because that would be awful.
That is awful. It was in a press conference. I'll send it to you later. But yeah, it was not good. I think that if anybody is being looked at to kick the can, it is Jonathan Gannon. I think our offense was great. I thought that A.J. Brown was a hell of a pickup. Jalen Hurts, 0 interceptions, and he made, he scrambled out of the pocket when he needed to, and he made pretty decent throws. Yeah, no, that defense. Second half of the third and then the fourth. I don't know, man.
Were you at all nervous?
I was very nervous. I was on the edge of my seat for most of that, and I should not have against the Lions.
I do. Go ahead, finish your thought.
On a team that is, predicted to, 1, win the division, and 2, make it to the playoffs, we shouldn't be struggling against the Lions. Although, you look back last year, it was 43. It was 41 49ers, Lions 33. So, I don't know if that is anything to go by. How last year's team, which also made it to the playoffs, kind of struggled against the Lions. I mean, it was a little farther, but I don't know. Maybe we're looking too much into it. I don't know. Maybe it was September rust.
Yeah, I mean, the connection between Hurts and A.J. Brown, it definitely showed. A lot of the receivers all the receivers that got traded, the big-time receivers, they all came out to play. That was kind of cool to see. And I do need to make a correction from last week. I made a comment about the Eagles having the second longest losing streak, and I said active losing streak. It was not active. It was done back in the day. Browns were the ones with the active losing streak, which they did break. Congratulations, Browns. So I just wanted to clear that up. However, this Eagles team should have mopped the floor with the Lions, but they didn't. But a win's a win, and you'll take it. Hopefully they change and fix some stuff. And maybe, like you said, it's week 1. A lot of stuff happens. Just don't panic yet. I'll give a quick recap. Go ahead.
Oh, I would agree. Also, why we didn't play Jordan Davis as much as we did is beyond me. Because when he was in, I think we kept him to below 2.5 yards. But when he was out, they just ran it. Couldn't stop him. So I don't know.
Could be conditioning thing. Could been a lot of factors. Rookies tend to start, if they're still learning the playbook and all that other stuff.
Fair.
Well, fair. The Dolphins, they played the Patriots, the slow, the old, and the Mac Jones-led Patriots. And it was a little what I expected. The Dolphins ran right past the Patriots. The Patriots' offense was slow. Their defense did a pretty good job. I mean, Miami only scored 20 points, but boy, did Mac Jones look bad. He struggled. Threw an interception to threw an interception when he targeted Xavier Howard. Had the strip sack that was fumbled and returned for a touchdown. It was wonderful. It was great to see. But I'm going to say something that you will never thought. I speak good. I bet you never thought you would hear from me. I left that game more worried about Tua than I have ever felt about Tua up till now.
Oh, no.
There were a couple throws that I felt he just flat out missed. And that lack of arm strength that I tend to think is overblown kind of reared its head a few times. And I need to see some improvement. Now, he did some great things. I don't know how much you saw. 4th down. 18 seconds, something like that, left in the 4th quarter. They go for it. They fire the ball the middle of the field to Jalen Waddle, who splits the defenders, and he scores. If you watch that play, Tua uses his eyes, moves the defender over, creates the space, fires a perfectly timed ball, perfectly placed ball right into Jalen Waddle, who gets to use his speed. Boom, touchdown. And that was really that was a game sealer. I mean, it was right at the end of the half, but that put the game away. He has the talent, but I'm a bit nervous. That defense is legit. They're good. This is a good team. Miami has a good team. And not to overreact, I think that their real test is this week when they face Baltimore. And so, we talked about this week. we're going to kind of jump right into it. Gannon, who do the Eagles play, and what do you think is going to happen there?
They face the Vikings, and that worries me a bit because of how the Vikings handled the Green Bay Packers. And if the Eagles play the Packers or the Vikings like they played the Lions, I'm very worried. I think that we need to fix this defense before week 2. Hopefully they do. I don't really have a lot of worry on offense, but that defense needs fixed. They can't be running the ball on us. They can't be, marching over us like the Lions did.
The good news is it's not like the Vikings have a good running back. Oh, wait. Dalvin Cook. Forgot. That guy's pretty good, isn't he?
I forget about Dalvin Cook because of their all-star wide receiver that they got on there.
Oh,
Justin Jefferson.
Is that guy good?
Not Justin Jefferson? Yeah, a little.
Oh, that's right. Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game went over to him and said he was the best player on the field. Yeah. How do you stop an offense? And this is, look, I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan. We know this. I do think he's going to have a decent year this year. Justin Jefferson is an absolute monster, and Dalvin Cook's pretty good too. That's a potent offense.
I think this is one of the biggest tests for the Eagles, is to get past the Vikings.
Defensively. Because offensively, you should be able to score on the Vikings, although Green Bay struggled.
That's true. But I mean, who did they have?
They have Aaron Jones and
do they have AJ Brown,
Dillon?
Devontae Smith,
No, but they have Aaron Rodgers and not Jalen Hurts.
That only counts
on Sundays. And sometimes Thursdays and occasionally Mondays.
Any day that ends in Y's.
Well, that's So what do you think? Give me the point spread and your thoughts on who's going to win the game, and then are the Eagles going to cover or not?
I think it'll be a back and forth. I think the Eagles win by 3. Honestly, I think that it's. I don't know.
So the Eagles are 2-point favorites. So then you think that the Eagles will cover?
Oh, I do think the Eagles will cover. Yeah, I think the Eagles will cover that. I think the game winner is probably a field goal. But
so that's always a good, it's a good test, and I do actually think that this is the Vikings are a better team than I expected. So
if you had to pick one, you had to bet a bunch of money on one team to win.
Between these two, I mean, I think that I have to trust the better team on paper, and that is the Eagles. But we'll see. I mean, you're not a big believer in your coaching staff, and I kind of like what the Vikings have done offensively with their coaching staff. And, well, their second game ever for Kevin O'Connelly, I think his name is. We'll see. But, I tend to agree with you. I think the Eagles win this, but, it'll be close.
It'll be close.
It should be a good game. Another good game, Dolphins at Baltimore. Remember I said that last week I felt that Miami was going to win that pretty, convincingly? This week, I've always been kind of circled saying this is the test.
Yep.
Because the Ravens are good. Now, the Dolphins' defense last year absolutely smothered and obliterated Lamar Jackson. They did this cover 0 blitz, and they had Lamar Jackson completely confused, and he was atrocious. But they've now had all offseason to figure out the cover 0 blitz. They've had all sorts of time to figure out how to attack it. And Bateman caught a deep pass. Their tight ends are lethal. And man, is Lamar Jackson good when he's good. The Dolphins' defense is going to have their test. And offensively, Miami cannot have the miscues that they had against New England. They need to be able to hit those big plays. They had probably 2 plays that were easy touchdowns that Tua just wasn't able to connect on. That's a little nerve-wracking. They got to be able to hit those plays. It's 3.5 points. Miami's offense did not run the ball well. Ravens get their star cornerback, but they did lose their number 2 corner, and Kyle Fuller. I think that Miami wins this game. And I think it's close, which means I do think Miami at 3.5 point underdogs. I think they do that. But man, it does scare me a little bit. What are your thoughts on that game?
I would be scared. I mean, but here's the thing. Can you go off week 1 against the Jets? I mean, they didn't. Yeah, they kept them to 9 points, but only scoring 24 points. I don't know. I feel like their offense is better than that, right?
The Jets' secondary is pretty good.
Oh, really?
I
didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the game. So
if you remember, they drafted that kid, their corner that they drafted, Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
Their defense is pretty good. Their quarterback is Joe Flacco, and their receivers were not good. Their running backs were and their offense showed it. But a bad offense has helped. But I don't know. I think the defense is good. I thought they played hard from what I read. I didn't watch them as the 1 o'clock game. I was a little busy trying to watch a couple other games, but still, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, and he's always scary to me. And Miami is missing one of their corners, which really helps them be able to run the defense they want to run. So we'll see. But I think the Dolphins do find a way to win this game. I think they start the year 2-0.
I honestly agree with you. Like, I think that they have the talent, and I think they're going to fix it before that. And, I mean, it's... The only thing that scares me is it's in Baltimore. You have the crowd around. Lamar Jackson. And I don't know. Again, now thinking about it, I don't know. I don't know, Finn. I don't know. But I'll still go with the Dolphins.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
So there were 2 other games that I think that are kind of important games. This week, I felt that there's a lot of not so great matchups, but there were 2 others. And one of those is Thursday's game. We've got Chargers at the Chiefs. Those were fun games to watch last year. The Chargers, they started the year strong. They buried Las Vegas. And Derek Carr showed to be Derek Carr, unable to win the big game when needed. What do you think of that matchup? Is this as big of a matchup as I think it is?
Oh, man. I cannot wait. I underestimated the Chargers here because I thought that the not Oakland Raiders were going to win that match, and they did not. I think that the Chargers looked really good, but so did the Chiefs. So this is going to be just a slugfest for both these teams. It's going to be a great one to watch. And if you were to only pick one of these games to watch, minus your own team, that's the one.
I agree. And the Chargers team, they look fun. And Justin Herbert, I was wrong on him. This kid is special. And some of the throws that he makes is just, it's ridiculous. And I end up watching him and just in awe. If Miami could redo that draft, they would have taken Herbert over Tua. They then would have taken Justin Jefferson over Austin Jackson. And then they would have taken Jonathan Taylor over Noah Iguodala. And Miami's offense would be one of the best units in the league.
You've probably seen your team go to the Super Bowl.
Herbert is on a different level, but so is Mahomes, and that offense was so efficient and so effective spreading the ball around. They did not need to rely on Tyreek Hill's speed. That
Shut down the Cardinals like that. I mean, the Cardinals. I mean, they're
it was double XP on Call of Duty, my guy.
that's what the joke was. But, jeez, I just don't understand. Like, the Cardinals aren't a bad team, and they just destroyed them.
It looks, if you had to say the two teams in the AFC that are a class above everyone else, it's the Bills, it's the Chiefs, and then kind of not too far behind that are the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see this game. I hope J.C. Jackson is healthy. That would be a big piece for the Chargers. But remember, the Chargers are going to be missing Keenan Allen. That is a big loss. So if the Chargers lose this, I don't think it's, oh no, they're not good enough. But if they keep it close and if they can pull out a win, Kansas City, watch out.
Yeah, I would agree. It's hard not to pick the Chiefs there, though. Just how dominant they were in that first Week 1 game. But so were... Yeah. I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
I agree. I mean, straight up, you take the Chiefs. I think even if you talk about point spreads at 4 points, I'd be pretty tempted to still take the Chiefs. I think that they win by a touchdown just because Mahomes is just on a different level. And I think J.C. Jackson being nicked up, even if he plays, and the loss of Keenan Allen, those are big losses. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's an exciting matchup to watch. And I wish Tom was here because the last matchup that I really want to talk about are the Bucks versus the Saints. The Bucks struggle against New Orleans. And it doesn't matter if it's Winston, if it's Brady, if it's Evans, if it's Julio, if it's Antonio Brown. They struggle against the Saints. And Jameis Winston wants that revenge.
In New Orleans, man, and I mean the way that you were talking about the Bucks not having anybody on offense. I mean Julio Jones.
I mean Mike Evans is playing,
Mike Evans.
And Fournette will probably play, but I believe Fournette was on the injury report, and it just this game, which is important for both games. The Saints struggled against Atlanta, who we thought was one of the worst teams in the league, and the Bucks absolutely handled Dallas, who some say are a pretty good team. This screams that the Bucks win this easy. They are a 2.5 point underdog at home. But there's just something about this game that has me concerned if I'm the Saints.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the Bucks.
Yeah, if you're the Bucks. If history is anything to go by, I'm picking the Saints.
Smart money is on the Bucks. Heart money is on the Saints. My brain is telling me the Saints win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bucks fans. I'm not just because I'm a Brady hater, which I'm a Brady hater. For those that are just listening, I'm pointing to all the Dolphins gear that is currently behind me. But there's just screams, uh-oh. It just screams, uh-oh. Michael Thomas looked good and healthy. They've got, this is a team that has some weapons. They do. And I would have the Saints.
Yeah.
So, in terms of something, just upsets that, I know we usually do our picks here, and we're going to kind of do it a little bit, but not quite. One upset I think to watch, the Steelers are 2-point underdogs against New England. And I saw Mac Jones play. That's really bad. I think the Pittsburgh offense is really, really bad as well. But I think the Steelers defense is legit. Even if they missed, they're going to miss TJ Watt. Minka Fitzpatrick played at a different level last week, and I think that carries over. I kind of watching that game, that to me is very much upset. Is there any upsets that you really like this week, Gannon?
So I was kind of looking in here, and the one that I found was that. Gosh, I found it here. I'm so sorry. Scrolling.
That's
That
right.
the Washington Commanders are the underdog against the Lions.
Wentz looked like Wentz, didn't he? Dude looked
He did.
unstoppable,
I'm
and
not
then
like, look,
he looked
I'm not
unstoppable,
gonna
and then
lie.
threw picks.
I mean, yeah, he threw picks. Classic Wentz. Classic Wentz. But underdogs against the Lions? When have the Lions been the favorite?
Well, remember, home teams tend to get 3 points. So when it's a 1.5 point spread like that, that means that straight up they think the Washington football team is better. But we're gonna give some points to the home team, just cause we
Yeah,
can.
I mean, they just scraped by the Jaguars, and that is another like team that, yeah, they probably got better, but it's still the Jaguars. I I don't know. I would still have to maybe go that game. Maybe the New York Giants being the favorite against Carolina by two
Yeah,
and a half.
I think. I mean, I know we're we want to look at those what teams could really pull off the big upset, and and I'm not saying what we just said isn't, but I think there is a game here, and I was kind of scrolling. I again apologize, but you have the. I was just kind of looking at some of these spreads that they're pretty ridiculous, but I'll tell you what, the Cardinals are a 5.5 point underdog against the Raiders, and I saw the Raiders look pretty decent, and Devontae Adams looked like a monster, but I don't think this Cardinal team is that bad. And I think they got their rear ends handed to them. I could see them coming out focused, and I could see them trying to stick something to the Raiders. So I would not be horribly surprised on something like that. But the Bears are going to get owned by Green Bay. I think that's safe to say.
I would say so. Yeah.
Well, is there? I'm gonna, normally we do a final thoughts here, and we like to end things on sometimes a funny note or different note. Is there anything about this week that in particular you're looking forward to?
I am interested to see if the Eagles hold together their defense and fix the mistakes that they had in week 1 against a scary looking Vikings.
Yeah, and of course, we talked about it there. I kind of said my piece. I'm excited to see how Miami fares against Baltimore. I, we talked about the matchups we like to see this week. More importantly, I'm kind of interested in how Dallas reacts and plays without Dak. And CeeDee Lamb is supposed to be the guy. He had 11 targets and only 2 catches last week. Can he become the guy that they drafted high and they expect to be to their number one while Michael Gallup is still recovering from his injuries? So I'm kind of interested in that. It's not because I have CeeDee Lamb in 2 of my fantasy leagues. That would be irresponsible. So I don't actually have him in my other league, but I have him on a friend's league that I helped draft. But I want to see how that plays out.
It is nice having Dallas the last in the division right now. So hopefully they stay there.
There you go. You heard it there first. Well, guys, I want to thank you guys for coming out here. Hopefully you learned a little something. And we will be back next week on Tuesday, our more normal time. I hope, unless something rare happens. But thank you guys again for hanging out with us. And Gannon, any final thoughts before we head out of here?
That's all I got. See you guys next week.
All right, remember, when you're down in somewhere where it's hot like Florida, if you think you've put enough sunscreen on, put on just a little bit more. Until next time. Bye, guys.